I'm going to make Bāwèi dìhuáng, or also called Shèn. I tend to every so often need a few doses of it because I get cold pretty easily, and my cat is really excited about this. So you need 3 ingredients. Well, I don't know, depends on how you count it. You need an herbal powder. So this is the ingredients, except it's easy to powder most things, but shu dìhuáng and sheng dìhuáng are sticky, and you can't really just throw them in the grinder with the other things. So I got the shu di, which I processed myself from Shengdi. There's another video about that. I've got this separate, and I'm going to dry fry it a bit to make it more crispy, and then I'll put it together with the other powder and grind it one more time. In addition, the other ingredient we need is honey. And I know that this is going to shock some of you, but in Chinese herbs, honey is very frequently processed. And so I'm going to do a little processing of the honey, which involves using heat that I know some of you find sinful, applying heat to honey, but this is how Chinese doctors have done it for generation upon generation. I'm not taking these pills because of the enzymes in the honey. I'm taking these pills because of the herbal nature, and I'm going to, use the traditional functions, the ancient functions of the herbs in the formula. Oh, my cat just jumped on my lap. There he is. Okay, I'm glad these herbs are for me and not for a patient, because yeah. Okay. So next step. They're cooled off now, and they're definitely less sticky than before, but I think next time I'll stir fry them a little bit longer. You can, break them into pieces, but they're not totally crisp. So I'm going to try and grind them and see. What I'm going to do is cut them into smaller pieces and mix them with the powdered herbs and give it another grind. So that's the next step. I cut the shu di into little pieces and mix them in with the powder. The reason I do it this way rather than grinding it all together from the beginning is because I'm hoping that any little sticky bits left will instantly be covered with powder that will make them less sticky, whereas if you grind them all together, a sticky part could get on the blades and just make a mess. Grinding shu di is a problem. So I'm going to put on the lid, and I'm going to, there. Sorry, I know you can't see it all. I'm going to plug it in because these Chinese grinders, they don't have all the safety features that you might expect. So I never plug it in until I'm ready to do the work. And I am going to start grinding. All I have to do is turn this little knob over here on the side, but it makes a horrible noise, so I'm going to turn off the video for now. I ground it for a little while, and I'm going to take off the lid. I've unplugged it. Have I? Yes, always double check. I've unplugged it. I'm going to take off the lid. If you take it off too soon, clouds of powder float out. I'm going to see how well it ground. I don't know yet how well it's going to grind, so let's see. Still some clouds are coming out. I don't know if you could see that, but it actually looks pretty well ground. Doesn't feel too lumpy. There are a few little lumps. I'm going to say it's good enough because I'm making these pills for me. I'm not making them for someone else. And so if it was, a more professional thing, I would sift and grind again. If some of it was not completely done. But this is going to be good enough for me. So I'm going to get the powder out of the grinder, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Okay, I'm going to do something that I know a lot of you will hate, but in Chinese medicine, the honey is also often processed, and that means heating it beyond the point which most people in the West are comfortable with. But it removes some of the water content, and it makes the nature of the honey warmer, and it also changes its physical characteristics. So of course, while you're heating it, you need to constantly stir and not let it get, burnt. But yeah, the honey that I chose, since I'm doing Bāwèi, a kidney-related pill, I chose the darkest honey that I could find. So, I went to the farmer's market and, just looked at the different honeys that they had, and I chose the darkest one. Unfortunately, it's not written on the label what it is, and I don't remember because I've had this honey for a little while. But if you were doing a spleen recipe like dìhuáng, you might want a more yellow color honey, but I wanted the dark one. So we're just gonna stir this. I forgot, a lot of the old, way is to only stir in one direction, and I forgot. I've just been kind of randomly stirring. Okay, I'll start now. And I also have a glass of water here because one way to test the characteristic of honey is to drip a little bit, not on the stove, but in, and well, actually it's kind of thick already. I know that's hard to see. When it's still not processed much yet, it tends to disperse. I made a mess here, but I always make a mess. That's just who I am. But when you get to different points, it'll actually bead when you drip it into the water. So we want this a little bit thickened, but we don't want it to totally make like a hard ball, like a hard candy kind of thing when dripped into water. So so that's, I forgot, I'm not stirring clockwise. Okay, so I'm gonna pause while I cook for a little while, and then I'll resume in a minute. I'm never letting it boil wildly. It is simmering a bit. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see, but I'm stirring, and a little bit of foam is coming to the top, and pretty soon it's going to change in its nature, and I think I do need to lower the temperature a bit now. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to try dripping another drip. Let's see what happens. So I've made a number of drips in the water. I know you can't see very well, but okay, I'm turning the heat off for a little while, and I'm keeping stirring. But there is one drop, I don't know, it's hard for you to see, but there is one drop that's much more beaded than what I dripped in before. So I'm going to call this done. I could do it for longer. Then, while I don't want to burn myself while I'm working on this, it's good to take advantage of the heat because it will blend with the powder more easily, and then you can pack more powder into the honey. So I'm going to move on to the next step. Okay, hopefully I can do this in front of the camera and not make too much of a mess. I've got the powder from before, I've got the honey, and I think I have more honey than I need. I've got a mortar and pestle, which I warmed a little bit by putting some hot water in it, but then I've dried it out. So I'm getting all the powder in. Doesn't want to all come out. Well, close enough. Okay, then I'm gonna little by little put some honey in and start to try and mix it. Okay, so this honey is a little bit thicker. One of the tricks I found is you generally want less honey than you think, because otherwise it gets too moist. Okay, so I'm pouring some honey in, and when it's too moist, it becomes sticky. Okay, so I'm going to try and, mix it and stir it a little bit. Right now, it almost looks like all the honey is gone, but it's just really in blobs that are coated by powder, and so you can think you've mixed all the honey in, but there's really a lot that hasn't been absorbed into the powder. It's starting to get a little pieces of chunky and stuff like that. I'm definitely going to need more, but I'd rather go slowly than overdo it. Although on the other hand, I want to go a little bit fast because I don't want it to like cool off and get too solid. Okay, so okay, it's starting to clump together, and hopefully I haven't used too much honey. Another thing that you probably want to do is always have a little bit of leftover powder, because if you put too much honey in, then you need to thicken it up with extra powder, or you may want to like powder your hands when you're working with it to make it less sticky in the beginning. Okay, so then trick number 2 that's really important for making honey pills is it needs to be pestled a bunch. And in the beginning, it's really sticky, but the old books tell you to pestle it 100 times. So I'm actually not counting because I'm talking to you, and I can see I did use too much honey already because this is, very sticky. So it's a good thing I do have some more powder on the side. And I'm gonna open my container, add in some more powder, and pestle some more. This might be good now. Okay, it's not all worked in yet, but I can tell we're getting better. So I'm going to pause it, and I'm going to pestle it 100 strokes, and it's going to be very different by that point. When you're pestling, every once in a while, I've done 33 pestlings. So every once in a while, you may need to, kind of scrape it off, and because in the beginning it's sticking to the sides, and so you want to kind of scrape it off. I can put this here, okay, and get the glob. I'm going to need metal because I'm afraid this stick is going to break. Okay, so okay, you can see it's turning into a dough, but I'm going to keep pestling it some more because that was only 33. Okay, so I've pestled it 100 times, and now I want to move it out onto the workstation. I have this little thing, I call it like a fairy dust thing. It has some powder in it of the same formula, and I can sprinkle a little powder, take the lump of dough out. So it's still a little sticky. I don't know if you can see, it's still a little sticky, but it's I can touch it and it's not all coming off of my hands or anything like that. So now I want to work it a little bit. I'm still trying to work a little bit fast because since I cooked the honey, it's possible it will solidify, but it's a pretty workable dough. I'm sorry if this looks like dog poop. It's not. It's going to be the formula. So then what you can do is kind of roll it out. And, you know, they actually have machines, like, not machines, like mechanical devices. Of course, they're also machines. But I have one for the small size pills, but not for the size of honey pills. So basically then what you can do is you make a strip like this, and then you cut it into pieces that will be the size of your honey pill. I really only wanted enough for about 10 days or even less, because last time I took this after 10 days, I had amazing results. I'm usually so cold in the winter, and it really like warmed me up without causing any problems. The first day of winter is coming up in the Chinese calendar. The first day of winter is coming up this week. And I wanted to take these like right at the beginning of winter. So now that I've got all these pieces, I can just roll them into little pills. And these are chewable. They're not the kind that you swallow. They're the kind you would chew. And so I have a little plate. I put it over here. And so I'm just going to, you know, roll them into little pills. I've decided I'm going to take them starting 5 days before the first day of winter, which this year, 2020, is what month are we in? November 7th, I believe. And so then tomorrow is November 2nd, and I'll start taking them for 5 days before the first day of winter and 5 days after, unless, like what happened last time, is I started getting a little bit of hot flashes, which are not my normal thing. And so I stopped, and that was at 10 days. And then for like 4 winters, my feet have been warm. So if I start feeling a little hot, a little heat, before I've done 10 days, then I'll stop before that. So that's my plan. And you know, if I decide this isn't enough, I can always make more, because I have plenty of the powder. There we go. So let's see. Yeah. And they're not, you know, sticking to each other. They're not sticking to my fingers. You can see my hands don't have, yeah, I need to wash my hands, but they're not all gunked up with the dough because I didn't use too much honey. So pestling it makes the smooth texture and make sure all the honey is evenly blended in, and warming the honey and cooking it a little bit. So I'll put them in an airtight container, and honey's a preservative, so they don't even really need to be refrigerated unless I wasn't going to use them for a long time. And that's how you make honey pills. Of course, there are many different recipes, but the procedure is basically the same. So, and I do find homemade medicine much more powerful than store-bought. So that's that. Hi, so now it's time for me to take my first honey pill of this batch. We'll see. It shouldn't taste horrible because it's a honey pill, but I've taken this before. It doesn't taste great. So let's see how this batch turned out. It's okay. It's kind of like peanut butter. So I have to chew it. So I probably have black in my teeth. It's better than every decoction I've ever had. It's okay. So hopefully this will help keep my feet warm this winter. I'll take them till they run out or until I get too hot. That's making honey pills.